All right, so physical games, they're kind of dying out, I think. And I don't think either of us like the idea, but at the same time, I think it's something the industry is forcing on us.
I think, well, actually, this morning I had read a tweet that Resident Evil Code Veronica X from the PlayStation 2 is being released on PS4.
Mm-hmm.
You know how Sony has their PS2 on PS4 games,
Yeah.
but no physical release of it.
Yeah.
And like, there's so many comments, or I don't even know what the hell that's called in Twitter, but basically there's comments saying that come on, Capcom, we want a physical release of this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. And it was released in HD on the PS3. Why can't they just port that over? You know.
But did it come out physically on PS3? Because I don't think it did.
Well, not here in this country, obviously, but I think it may have either in Europe or Japan. They tend to get. See, that's the thing too, is they tend to get physical releases that we don't.
Yeah, I think it's probably this. You could probably say the same the other way around.
Yeah, it is.
But
for the most part, like I have the physical release of Shadow of the Beast,
mm-hmm.
and as far as I know, it's not available physical here.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's one thing, and they haven't even confirmed that it's actually the HD version that's coming over to the PS4, which
it's from the PS2.
Just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
but
it's stupid.
I think that's slightly different. So, okay, before we get too much into this, I thought we should kind of take a few steps back and look at how things were earlier on, because we obviously didn't have the option for digital media forever. You know,
No.
This is relatively new in the console space anyway. Even the PC space, it's not super old. It's definitely been around a lot longer over on that side of things, but you know, like let's say back in the 80s, most of the 90s, everything was on carts, you know, floppy disk CD-ROMs eventually. And on consoles, there's no patching whatsoever. So games, when they shipped, they pretty much better work. Not that they all did. There were still duds, obviously, but they pretty much had to work right out of the box. I think a few developers managed to sneak in some fixes and repackage the game, kind of like, you know, Street Fighter 2 variations and stuff like that.
Hydro Thunder had a couple revisions on Dreamcast.
Yeah, those are pretty minor. Like the Street Fighter ones, at least they added content to. But whatever the case, I think the arcade translations pretty much were the ones that got like the updated re-release that you didn't necessarily know about. It's not like they had a version number attached to them on the box or anything.
Yeah.
But they did get them. But then, you know, as time went on, PCs went online, internet was born and all that, and patching became a thing that you could do. And, you know, in those days, internet was so slow with the 33.6 modems or the 56K modems that, like, your patches couldn't be too big.
No.
Like, even if your game shipped on a CD-ROM, your patch had to be pretty minuscule in order for anybody to be able to download it in a reasonable amount of time. And God forbid they get a phone call while downloading.
Yeah. Heck, I remember just trying to download those demos from back in the day, and sometimes those demos were huge. I mean, for that time.
I remember when Steam went online, and a friend of ours was downloading Half-Life 2 on this poor old 56K, and it's like, took forever and a day. Which is funny because I just reinstalled that game yesterday and it took less than a minute. It was like done in no time. I went to check on the download after I clicked install, and it was like it was already done. It's like, oh, okay, that was quick. But so yeah, you know, back then is like I don't think anybody thought patching was really a bad thing necessarily because they weren't that big a download, and still most games were shipping in a working condition for the most part. But I think it's around the time the 360 came.
Yeah.
I think that's about...
That was the first... Well, there was some... I don't know if it would be considered patching, but definitely DLC on the original Xbox.
Yeah, DLC.
And actually, there had to have been patching because Halo 1 and 2, well, mainly Halo 2 had updates for online.
Halo 1
it wasn't done like the 360 was. It was done through the game.
Yeah.
You know, and in order for you to go online, this update has to be applied. And I don't know if it's the same thing, because a lot of patches, it's because the game is broken. But even then, it's kind of the same principle.
Sort of. I think where we went wrong, in a way, I don't know if wrong is the word necessarily, but when games like the 360 was one thing because they had a really nice ecosystem to really... They're much like Steam, honestly. I was thinking about this earlier today. Xbox Live is very much like Steam in the sense that all the updates are just kind of done for you. You don't really see them all the time, other than on Xbox when you start up the game. But, they're getting better at that too. But, by and large, it's like... I think the PS3 is kind of... Let's not even say the 360 started it, because the PS3 really did. With its Blu-ray drive, which, for all the great things that it added, it also brought a huge bad thing, and that's the fact that you pretty much had to install every game because that drive was so slow, things couldn't run off of it.
Yeah.
Eventually 360 got to that point too.
But it was optional.
It was optional on that system. PS3 was not. Is pretty much a necessity. That's not to say that physical media is useless on PS3, because as long as you could install, that disc was still valuable. You could still do something with it. Yep. Same thing with 360. But then we get to where we're at now. And I almost feel stupid buying games on this modern systems in a way, because like on disc, because it's like it's just gonna make me download as much as the game. A day one patch, and sometimes like many days later patch, like in the case of Assassin's Creed Unity, which was basically the full game re-downloaded.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's a travesty of a launch right there. That game just was so broken that they should not have launched it at all. But they did, and I know they made money, good for them, but shame on them at the same time.
Yeah.
And now it's so, now you got these systems shipping with like 500 gig hard drives with Blu-ray discs that can hold 50-ish gigs each, and so that means the games are all around that size or bigger, sometimes smaller, and they don't really fit that many. You can't fit that many on a modern hard drive, which means your hard drive needs to be bigger.
I guess it would depend on the size of the games, but
yeah,
you might get 2, 4, 6, maybe like 10. I'd say actually, we'll say about 8 or 9 games, depending on the sizes.
And that's right, and that's if they're full retail games. There's a lot of smaller games out there.
And then actually, like on the Xbox One, Quantum Break has an additional 70 gigs that you can download.
Yeah.
Optional, but that's still... You install the full game, which is, I think, about 50 or 60 gig install, and then you download that 70 gigs, and that's got to be the largest game on the system today.
Now, they did that kind of smart though, right? Like where you can optionally download it so that it doesn't stream the video clips, because it streams otherwise, doesn't it?
I don't know. I just...
You downloaded it?
Yeah.
I think it streams it on that game. I think it actually streams those video clips over your connection. So, which is a smart idea on their
eat
part.
up the pipeline.
Well, I mean, it's not like it's a heavy multiplayer game or something, and
No,
as long as you can stream it okay, it's actually a smart move on their part. However, let's take something to pick on Microsoft some more. Take something from Halo, the Master Chief Collection. I bought the disc of that. That's
Me too.
Enormous install. It doesn't even matter that I have the disc. It's so big that it's like it fills up most of my hard drive. Just having it.
Yeah.
You know,
And then that game was broken too.
Yeah, it was.
Tons of patches.
I didn't have to deal with that because I got mine so late. But so one of the bigger games that kind of told me that the physical disc wasn't necessarily as important anymore was the Rare Replay collection, because you put it in and of course it installs, but it doesn't install every game. It actually has to download many of them from Xbox Live.
Now, isn't the ones that's downloading the ones that were on the 360?
I think so, yes. There's, because like the older ones that haven't been re-released in forever, like Battletoads and stuff, they remain, I'm not going to say on disc necessarily, but you can't even see them unless you have the disc in. So
I see. Well, it it makes sense in some cases, like for the 360 anyway, because of how they're doing the backwards compatibility. Because I would imagine all it is the 360 code.
Yeah, and I get that. I totally get that, but at the same time, when you buy a disc, why can't it
just have
work
the
off
stuff on
that?
it?
That's.
Yeah.
I guess if you really want to be technical, the reason that it's come to this at all is because of the switch to optical media. Because inevitably, there is going to come a point where it just was not gonna be enough. It wasn't gonna be fast enough.
Well, Nintendo might be changing that with the Switch.
I don't know, because at the same time, so like, I don't know how much analysis videos you've watched or anything, but the Switch game cards, they aren't as fast as its internal memory. When it comes to loading games and stuff, loading times, it's not as fast as the internal memory at all. And on top of that, some developers are having to charge a little bit more for Switch versions of games because of the fact that it's a card and not a disc. So it does cost them more. Kind of like the old days with cartridges, though I can't imagine it's as bad, but still, probably more than a Blu-ray disc.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which it sucks, and I really thought Nintendo could do something extraordinary to shake up that side of things. Not that they haven't, but like we've talked about in our NX predictions and stuff like that, they could have really did something where they had that extra space on the side within each card that was dedicated to like downloads and patch installs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
they could have. I'm sure it's entirely possible, but they didn't. So, and then on top of that, in like one of our past videos, like I was saying, there's so many more games getting released digitally on that system than there are physical. It's embarrassing almost.
Yeah, I think I've seen maybe 2 or 3 new games hit the shelf.
Yeah, I mean,
but you're saying there's
like 5 or 6 games there, but on the eShop there's probably like 30.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's totally different. And I actually had to tell somebody the other day, they came into the store to buy a copy of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I was like, so have you checked out the eShop yet? Because I was actually just curious. He's like, I haven't even been there yet. I was like, well, you should, because there is many, many, many more games on the Switch on the eShop than there is in retail stores. And he was shocked by that. And I have to wonder how many other people are too.
Yeah, it is crazy. But
so I guess my thing is like we're going to reach a point where there is no reason to buy discs, and that may actually be here now.
well, see, one of the YouTubers that I always watch is Adam Carolla, and he recently come back from Japan.
Yeah.
And something he learned over there is that their internet is spotty. However, where there is internet, it's extremely fast. But they actually prefer physical media there because of the fact that not everyone has internet. I mean, you could say the same thing for the United States. There's areas where it's very spotty, or you might have the only thing available is satellite, and that's not good for gaming at all.
No.
But apparently Japan is they really push for physical media, and I think that's fantastic, especially since our systems are region free.
Yeah.
Meaning we could actually go ahead and buy some games that we don't get here. Like, for instance, I got Shadow the Beast.
Yeah.
So I have a physical version. It's in English. In fact, a lot of Japanese games that have been released here, maybe not, physical, but they'll have that language option in their games. Now, if it's a game that's exclusive to Japan, obviously you're probably not going to have any English in there. But then you could go and get the Hong Kong version, like what mine is, and you'll have English in there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a sad thing, if you ask me. I think there's going to be if somebody doesn't address it before this comes to be, there's going to be a big disruption on the consumer side of the business, because it's not the same as like movies and music moving away. Like, even music, you can still buy CDs. Like, they're still available. And it's not even like hard to find them. You can jump on Amazon, or you can go to a store and you'll probably
Best
find.
Best Buy still has, not very big, but they do have a section.
Right. It's not like it's a huge section anymore like it used to be, where it's a couple aisles long or anything. But they're still available. In movies, I don't care what anybody says. Movies, people aren't going to stop buying physical movies.
They're, in my opinion, like, if you're watching like a TV series or maybe documentaries, that's fine on Netflix.
Yeah.
Movies on Netflix are definitely watchable. They're good. But sometimes you just want to have it in a collection, so that, like, if you up and decide, hey, I'm going to watch Fury.
Yeah.
And then go and grab it and you put it in. And you're guaranteed, at least with Blu-ray, your 1080p, full quality.
Yeah, exactly. And now, honestly, I think it'd be ignorant to ignore the fact that general consumers probably don't give a crap about the quality side. They probably don't even see the difference. People like us do, for sure. But, to me, it's like, if a movie is one of my favorites, I want immediate access to it all the time. That's where digital doesn't make a lot of sense. And for how unreliable internet connections are,
like mine.
It's just like, yours, mine, mine might be fast, but when it just drops out of nowhere and I have no notice or anything, if all my stuff was digital and relied on me being online, I would have nothing to do, and that sucks. So I think that the problem here, though, is like with games. It's okay. So, let's go back to Assassin's Creed Unity, war game. We're just gonna beat on that one for a while. You bought it, but your internet sucks at home. You have satellite, live out in the country, so you don't really have any options. and you boot it up. Well, it's buggy, so it doesn't work, so you can't play it. You just spent $60 on a disc with random pieces of code, basically, because it doesn't work right. And then the patch finally comes out to fix it. Well, what good does that do you? You know? Like, you can't download, like, was it 30 gig patch or something? You can't do that on satellite. Like, you could try, it would take forever.
Yeah, it'd take a while.
Probably need a download manager and shit, too. I mean, if you're doing it on PC anyway. But it's just like, what are those people supposed to do? And this is more something that's going to affect general consumers than it will us. Because, you know, we're not likely to live somewhere where we don't have at least 90% availability of internet, you know?
Yeah.
Like good internet. We're not going to move out in the middle of nowhere with satellite internet by choice.
But see, that's also why I think that, like, in 20 years, we'll still have physical media, but they may actually raise the price because they're going to sell less.
Yeah.
You know, and I think actually another good system that we could have thrown in there was the PlayStation Vita. You know, there are still physical releases, however, they're very minute.
Yeah.
You also have the limited run games, although they only make like 1,000 or 2,000 of them.
Yeah.
So it's like you blinked and you missed it.
Yeah.
So most of the games are all digital based for Vita.
Yeah. So I guess I guess I would like to see something change in the physical media side. And I don't know exactly what that would be, but in my head I keep going back to like the zip drives. Remember those?
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, a typical 3.5-inch floppy was like 1.3 megabytes or something. But a zip drive, in comparison, was like 250 gig or something, or 200 gig, or not gig, meg. But that's still like 200% the size of a single floppy, which at the time was amazing. And I think, like, when you look at something like that today, it obviously costs more, but it's writable, and it could still hold a lot. And maybe it's time that the industry start looking at that, because they are going to lose sales if, like, parents can't go into a store and buy their kids a game for Christmas that they can open. Buying a download card is not the same.
No.
You know? It's
I
just
certainly
not the
wouldn't
same.
want one.
No. My store has them, and I don't think a single one has been sold. You know? They keep sending us more to put out, and it's like, why?
We still have these ones.
Exactly. We end up just shredding them because, like, they have no value. And
they have to be activated.
Yeah, well, when you buy it, I guess it prints the activation code on the receipt that you punch into the system. And it's like, well, if you got to punch it in the system anyway, why wouldn't you just get the game on Xbox Live or PSN or whatever? You know? It just doesn't make any sense. So, I don't know. I just think that that's just something... It's a troubling thing to think about, but it's here, you know, and it wasn't always this way.
No,
there was once a time when you could just walk into the store, buy a
your
new game and
come
home and play it.
And actually, I mean, even today, some of the retro games, you know, you got these people that constantly search for things that are broken, bugs that can help them beat the game a certain way.
Yeah.
You know,
speedrunners especially, yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me because it's like back in the 80s, those things, those glitches and whatever, they didn't even find them then. And then, like, you know, 30 years later, hey, look.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because, like, a few years ago, when I was living in San Antonio, I went to the Best Buy E3 event.
Ooh, cool.
Where Nintendo had some of their games on display for playable purposes. just like the same games they had at E3, which was pretty awesome, I thought. And it was cool because being so close to Austin, the guys from Retro Studios were there, a couple of them. There's kind of watching people play Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, just kind of getting a feel, trying to get a feel for it and what people were thinking. But, they also had a demo of Wind Waker HD.
Oh.
Now, I think most people just assume that game's pretty much bug-free. Like most Nintendo games, there's pretty much nothing that you'll find naturally that happens that's wrong. But there was a guy stepped up to play, and first thing he did was went for this bug that he knew about. And, obviously he's probably dug into that CD side of things before. But, my point is that, like, that game is long thought to be like bug-free, basically perfect in terms of functionality. Like so many games of the earlier eras. Like, take Super Mario World. There's no bugs in that game, right? I'm sure there is. But they were, like, so hidden deep below the surface that you just wouldn't see them.
You wouldn't.
So it's different now because all you have to do is start up a game and you'll know if it's buggy.
Unity.
Yeah. Just to be fair, let's throw Batman Arkham Knight into that.
Yeah. No, I don't have that yet, and I do actually want it.
I got it for PS4 because the PC version is apparently still.
Well, no,
messy.
they canceled it.
No, it's out. They you can buy it. It's just on sale like a couple days ago.
Well, they must have re-put it back on because
they pulled it temporarily.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like totally broken. Now it wasn't broken for everybody. I remember when it very first came out, Rich from Review Tech had bought it, and he had footage of it running on his system, and it was running fine. But it's funny because at the same time he was doing a story on how buggy the game was and how they were pulling it. And here he is playing it. It's like, okay, so it's buggy for some, and not for everybody apparently. But that's one of those games too that, I don't know in a couple of years, say 10, 15 years, am I going to be able to put that disc in my PS4 and actually play it?
Probably not.
That's a worry I have. And soon we're going to see a few other things, Take the downloadable scene. Obviously, like it or not, there's a lot of downloadable games that are simply not available in physical form, at least in the States. And we're reaching a point where we're going to see how well Microsoft and Sony honor your previous purchases, which is something I've been very, very, very concerned about for a while. Not to say that I haven't bought my fair share of digital games from them, but like Steam, when I didn't jump right into Steam right out of the gate. I was really against it, like so many other people were. I hated that I had to download all this crap to play Half-Life 2 on my computer. And I did actually buy the Xbox version at one point when it came out because I wouldn't have to download stuff. And, I've obviously warmed up to it. I have over 400 games on there now, so it's like I've warmed up to Steam quite a
400.
bit. But here's the thing is, like, I got Half-Life 2 around 2005, I think, about a year after it came out. Had to get Steam because that's a requirement for that game. And when it kind of occurred to me as I got more into PC building over the years, I think it was around 2011, 2010, 11, somewhere around there. I was setting up a new computer and I was like, I better get Steam. Maybe now I can play some games now that I have this sweet computer. And when I got on there, I logged in after I finally found my login info. Because I didn't even use Steam for years. And then I logged in and there was all my Half-Life stuff still sitting there, available. And that's what got me to be like, Steam's okay. Because all these years have passed and it's still right there, ready to go, waiting for me. And that's what I'm worried about with Xbox and PlayStation. Am I going to be able to turn on my 360 after, like, the 9th gen Xbox is out? And am I going to be able to turn on my 360 and re-download those games onto it? Are they even going to have it available?
See, that's a tough one because, like, the original Xbox was pretty much canceled and shut down almost right away, and then they left.
Save for Halo 2.
Well, they left the Xbox Live servers up, but then all of a sudden, I think it might have been in 2010, they shut them all down. And it might even have been before that, but they shut it all down and said Xbox Live for the original is no longer functioning.
Well, see,
and that's still the same today. Like, if you use some of the Xbox games that are compatible.
Well, I'm not talking about the play. I'm not talking about the online play side so much. I'm talking more about being able to access my purchased content.
Well, that's my point, though, is because Microsoft's Xbox Live is an ecosystem. Like, for instance, with, let's say, Halo 2, I purchased the map packs.
Yeah, me too.
And I can't go get those.
That's true.
Because Xbox Live for the original Xbox is shut down. Yeah. Now, I was also smart and purchased those map packs on a disc.
So
I have that. But that's, to me, I think the 360 is going to be the same way. Eventually, they're going to say, hey, we need to shut these servers down because we need to make room for the future. And I think that's what's going to happen. We'll see what happens as far as support goes, but once they end support, I don't know that we could actually go back on the store and re-download or even purchase.
And that's where I have some problems. I don't know. It's like the fact that I got Half-Life 2, was it about 12 years ago now? And I was still able to jump on and download it. Granted, that's Valve's own game, and they make Steam, so stands to reason they would keep it on there.
And it's still probably one of the best games ever made.
Yeah, it still functions online and everything. It's fully featured still, which is pretty remarkable. But that's what I worry about. You know, when it's if you can't have everything working out of the gate on disc, and you have to resort to digital, what happens when those are not available? Take Afterburner, for example. Afterburner Climax, specifically. Came out in 360 and PS3, digital only. Well, Sega had lost their licensing for the... I don't know, I don't remember which jet it is, but the jet in the game. And so they've had to pull that game from the store shelves. So you can't buy it anymore. However, since I already bought it on my PS3, I was able to re-download it. So they left that intact. Same thing with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 when it was pulled, and 2 for that matter. When it was pulled because Capcom did not have a deal with Marvel anymore, if you already purchased it, you could still re-download it. And that's good, but, you know, like I said, when we move on to the 9th generation, am I going to be able to get those games still on my PS3 or 360? Or are they going to start shutting that stuff down and just leaving you out?
Well, you know, I think, honestly, if... I don't know what Sony's plans are as far as backwards compatibility go. But with Microsoft, it seems like they want to eventually have the entire 360 library backwards compatible.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that any game you had, you'd be able to play right on there.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's the One or the Scorpio in the future. And it's even more possible that the original Xbox games could be opened up.
Yeah. And
then maybe servers for those are re-enabled. I mean, you never know. Might be kind of cool.
Well, I mean, the obvious thing with that generation specifically, is that those are all prime candidates for like remakes and remasters because
Yeah.
they weren't HD and they had a few quirks about them, bugs and stuff. A lot of them had great online features that are no longer available and haven't been for a while. So there's a lot of stuff that could be done. I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, I really hate the way that physical games are now because they almost don't matter.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bummer.
Once that moment does happen, I don't know. I'll quit.
I'll tell you though.
I'll tell you what. If the consoles switch over to digital only, that's when I switch to PC gaming, full time.
Yeah.
I've been kind of getting back into it, more with I don't really want to call them retro games, but older games.
Mm-hmm.
Like recently, I picked up Splinter Cell. Got it for $1, so it's not like I would pass it up. This one I picked up. I played the shit out of this back in the day. Sim Golf. Now, granted, this game should be put like on the iPad or something, but I got a few other PC games. Let's see, what's that one? I can't remember it, but various RTS games, which I've always played those on PC. Kind of hard to play them with a controller, but I'll just switch over to PC and spend all my money on hardware.
See, that's part of that's kind of where I'm at anymore. It's not specifically because of the state of physical media so much as the vast price difference in games game prices on PC versus console. It's often a huge gap in difference.
Yeah.
You can get brand new launch day games for $30 on PC and $60 in the store. And it's not uncommon to have a brand new game launch on sale for half price on PC. And to me, it's like that alone is a huge boon for me. But then there's things like the Steam sales and stuff, which have like the best games of the last year or two for dirt cheap. I can take $25 and walk away with way more games I'm going to be able to play. And it's nice to have the catalog, even though I'm never going to play through them all, but it's nice to have the variety.
Plus the Humble Bundles.
Those Humble Bundles are great too. Yeah.
And I would say 98% of the time, they're all for PC.
Yeah.
They've been starting the PlayStation bundles too, which I've.
Well, they did Nintendo one before that.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the Wii U and 3DS.
I wonder how well that did.
Well, I don't know.
But
I got it. Yeah.
All digital.
Yep. So I don't know that there's much more that we can say on this. It's just kind of a bummer, but what can you do? Unless somebody shakes it up in a big way, there's not much we can do.
Well, the one thing I would say is if Nintendo were to open up, let's say release a new game card that had storage set aside for DLC and patches, and basically, I don't know if they could speed up the speed of it or not, but I think that's the major issue there is rewritability and the speed.
Yeah.
So,
well, they obviously have rewritability in built in anyway because that's where your game saves go.
it goes on the card?
I believe so. Well, maybe not. I'll have to investigate. I don't know, because I know people have been upset they couldn't back up their saves to SD cards, but I'm not sure if it's because it's locked to the system memory or if it's because it's locked to the game card.
Well, if it was to the game card, I wouldn't have any issues with that.
I wouldn't have any issues with that either, but you never know. People are weird. I don't ever back up my saves anyways with console games, so...
Yeah. Well, anyway, that is that, and we'll talk to everybody later.